Hi, so this is Ron with Mobile Fix Automotive in the shop today, as always. Working on a 2006 Land Rover, Range Rover. This has the 4.4 V8 in it, and customer complaint on this that I'm going to share with you today. And I'm going to do a little disclaimer. Just because I found this doesn't mean this is what the problem is on your engine, but this is very common. I've seen this a lot, and it doesn't show up on the scan tool all the time, and but it's usually fairly easy to find if you know what you're looking for and you have the right tools. So the vehicle in question has a I'll look into the camera here for a minute. The vehicle in question, 2006 4.4 Range Rover, has a P0301 cylinder 1 misfire detected in the system. Although I'm going to show you the scan tool right now, and if you look at cylinder number 1, the red line is dead straight. Under cylinder 1 misfire, there's 0, 0, 0. But if you could hear this in person right now, you can definitely feel the engine twitching. So what I'm going to show you is a fairly simple trick using a fairly simple tool. This is a TA500 Smart Tack, and it basically reads coilover plugs. And I'm going to turn it on real quick, and I've got it set so that the bottom line shows peak voltage. And let me show you real quick what we're going to look for. We're going to set the yellow tip right on top of a coil pack. Now this cylinder right here is fourth one back, and if you look at the screen, everything is consistent. So you see the flashing triangle on the left side of the screen with the little lightning bolt in it? That means that the coil is firing. Okay, so pull it back off, let the screen set, stick it back on to the next one. The reading's pretty much stable, the same position. Okay, pull it back off, let it reset. We're going to come to the next one forward. Voltage is a little bit lower, but everything is stable. Now here's where the fun part comes in. This is cylinder number 1. This is the one that's throwing the misfire. See how the voltage is all over the place? And then it shows the dotted lines where the 24 volt is. Okay, that basically means that the coil is dropping out. Now there's a potential for this. There's a potential for this to be a bad spark plug also. Could also be internal engine on a misfire injector, stuff like that. You know, wiring not firing. In this particular case, the experience is telling me that the coil itself is just breaking down from old age and heat. They bury these underneath a panel, so I didn't show you what I had to do to get to it, but I had to pull this off, which fits down in there, and then there's the entire Land Rover engine cover. So these coils don't get a whole lot of air cooling. They put up with an awful lot of abuse. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to remove this 8mm nut right there and pull this coil out and swap it for a brand new Delphi unit. Normally I'm a big DENSO fan, but the Delphis are a pretty good unit also, and DENSO's not available today for this vehicle, so I'm going to run an OEM Delphi, and we're going to see whether or not this misfire continues. So stand by. Okay, so I'm back, and continuing. I shut the vehicle down for my safety to be able to work on it, and as a result, the scan tool shuts off, which is normal in a lot of situations. I'm just going to scroll down until I get to the number 1 misfires, which really doesn't matter because, as I showed you earlier, the misfire doesn't show up on the scan tool anyway. And that makes it really difficult for the techs to figure this stuff out. So now I'm going to take my tool my TA500, and I'm going to turn it back on. And if you've got a vehicle with COPs, which is coil over plug, or distributorless ignition, owning one of these is not a bad idea. Engine miss is gone. I can't physically hear it chirping anymore or dropping out. And now we have constant voltage with no dropouts. So I'm gonna put the link to the parts that I'm using. Sorry about that, I don't have a filmer today. So I'm gonna put a link to the stuff that I'm using, the tool, if you guys wanna buy one or look one up. So look in the description box underneath the video. There should be a drop down for description, and it'll have some data in there. And I'll also give you the part number for the Delphi coil that I run. I'm very picky on my coil packs. Yeah, I know people don't like me calling them a coil pack because technically it's a coil. Coil pack is when there's multiples in one unit, but it's just the word that I use, so give me a break, guys. So on the coils, I'm very picky. DENSO's my #1 choice. In all the years I've been running DENSOs, I have still yet to warranty one out from a failure due to a defect. I've seen them break when a spark plug blows out of a Ford Triton, stuff like that, you know, any coil was going to get destroyed. But as far as having them come back into my shop and having to warranty them out, the DENSO's is the way to go. Delphi is my second choice. Whatever you do, my advice to you is if you go online and you find 8 of these coils in a pack for 55 bucks for all of them, save yourself the time, save your mechanic the time. Don't buy that crap, all right? It's all China electronics. It's gonna work sometimes, gonna not work other times, and the amount of diagnostic labor that I've spent and lost because of people buying cheap coils is pretty intense. So I just always tell everybody, you get what you pay for. If you want to buy cheap, expect problems. So step up, buy a decent quality coil. Your coil should, you know, if you're buying it over the counter and not online, a good decent coil for one of these things is going to set you back anywhere between 55 and 90 bucks, depending on what store you buy it in. Stay away from the small house brands because I don't like them either. So stay with a good name brand coil. So I'm going to get into a little bit of diagnostic talk real quick. Now I'm going to pause this so I can shut the engine off because the misfire is now cured, and I'll give you a little bit of insight and a little bit of free professional advice, and you guys can you know, take it or leave it. We'll go from there. Stand by. Okay, so on a couple of my other diagnostic videos, I talk about disconnecting the coil to find out if you have a dead hole, which is the dead hole meaning a cylinder that's not firing. I talk about just, you know, what the engine running carefully without getting anything caught in any fan blades or anything like that. We got to go through all the safety stuff now. Disconnect the electrical connector while the engine's running, or shut it off, disconnect it, and start it back up and see if you see a difference. That usually will give it to you. On this one, it was firing enough that when you disconnected it, it changed the engine RPM and made it worse, but it's mainly because the coil was just misfiring. So the best way to do it is do it with one of these little tools that'll actually read what the coil's doing. The other thing you can do too, which is kind of a shortcut, especially if you're trying to save money and you don't want to just throw parts at it, is pull one of the other coils out of a different cylinder and swap it with the one that it said. If you have a code like the 301, I know I just kind of cut myself off there, but the P0301 is a cylinder 1 misfire. So we know that it detected a cylinder misfire on 1, which is why I started with that cylinder first on my test. But if I was doing this out in the field and I didn't have that meter and I really wanted to just waste a few minutes to find out if it was a coil, I would have taken the #1 coil and say the #3 coil, which is the next one, and I would have swapped them and then taken it for, you know, cleared the codes and taken it for another test drive. And then if it comes up with a #3 cylinder misfire, then I know that it's a bad coil because I took the coil out of the misfiring cylinder 1 and put it in #3. So then #1 now has a good coil that's firing. So hopefully that makes sense to you. And like I said at the beginning of the video, this is not this. If you have a misfire, this doesn't necessarily mean this is what your problem is with your vehicle. However, this is something for you to look for, something for your mechanics to look for. Typically when a coil is misfiring, and this isn't 100% accurate, but for the most part it is. More often than not, when the coil malfunctions, you'll feel the misfire more predominantly just under light acceleration between 15 and 2100 RPM. You'll feel the engine kind of skip, or at cruise speeds on the freeway, 55 to 70 miles an hour, where your accelerator's just got enough pressure on it to maintain speed, and that's where you feel the engine miss at. And that's usually, it ends up being a coil that's bad. You just have to figure out which one. So hopefully this gives you guys a little bit of heads up on what to look for. And do me a favor, like and subscribe to my page. I'm going to try to shoot a lot of small little troubleshooting videos like this. And I do them off the cuff. I'm not a professional. I don't have commercials and all that stuff at this time, and don't really know if that's ever going to happen. But I'm just trying to pay forward the mechanics information and knowledge that I've acquired over 35 plus years of doing this, and I'm happy to help you guys out. Unfortunately, if you've made it this far in the video, I'm no longer returning phone calls for diagnostic work, so please don't call and ask what's making your engine do something. I'm just not capable of doing that over the phone most of the time, and it's wasting an incredible amount of my time and resources. So if you're in my local area and you want me to look at your vehicle, by all means leave a message and I'll call you back. But if you're just calling for information, at this time I'm not returning phone calls. So hopefully we'll see you on the next video. And this is Ron with Mobile Fix Automotive. Bye-bye.